All right, I'm going to deal quickly with a subject now, birth certificates in Victoria. And Victoria, of course, has recently changed the law down there to say that you can change the sex that's been recorded on your birth certificate without undergoing any surgery at all. You just need to nominate it and away you go. Don't have to have an actual sex change. Passed the Victorian Upper House 26-14, which is a big pass. Now it's going to go to the Governor for royal assent. It is effectively law. Children can change the birth certificate as well. They just need parental support and a statement from a doctor or a psychologist. And Victoria now follows Tasmania, the Northern Territory, South Australia and the ACT in adopting these changes. Now, here's the problem. Sex change is impossible, but nonetheless, the idea is spreading like a contagion. We have seen through Freedom of Information requests to major gender clinics across Australia a 1,000% increase in children minors on hormone therapy, all the way down at that stage of gender reassignment. This actually is happening primarily in Victoria, and it's happening in a state in which the laws of that state, I kid you not, in Victoria, say that an underage minor, person under 18, cannot get a tattoo even with parental consent. I mean, the age of consent exists for a reason. Adulthood at 18 was put in place for a reason. We don't allow children, minors, to make so many decisions that are far more basic than this kind of radical stuff. And Candace Owens writes, telling children they can pick their gender is as fundamentally stupid as telling children they can choose their species. If we did, we'd have classrooms filled with mermaids, aquamen, wizards, gnomes, fairies and aliens. It's true. And that's who we're giving the ability to decide whether they're a boy or a girl, to make lifelong body mutilating and to take choices and to take hormones. It's outrageous. It's funny in a way when you read Candace Owens' quote, but it's tragic. Do you know Walt Heyer, I say this often, came to Australia a little while ago, one of the really early gender reassignment patients back in the 50s, became a woman, lived as a woman for a number of years, realised it didn't solve his problems, transitioned back to being a man insofar as you can. You can't do it all the way because of the things that they do to your body. He now runs Transgender Regret, in which just a teeming huge number of people seek out his advice and help when they realise that they've gone down this path and it has not helped them. And he says he sits down with these people and he asks them what went wrong. He said a full 50% will say child sexual abuse. 50%. But nobody checked. They just felt gender dysphoric and so they were pushed down an avenue and a pathway. Others had comorbidities, psychological issues and so on. He says, well, transgenderism doesn't really exist. It's an umbrella that we place over a whole range of concerns that people have and we never deal with them. We just, in fact, make it worse. And he says, I said, Walt, why are you one of the only people out there speaking out against this stuff, doing the work you're doing? He says, well, I'm 80 odd. He says, I'm one of the only ones that's sufficiently recovered in my own health and psychology to be able to go out there and do this work. That's how seriously it hurts people. And pointing back to my previous topic, here's the reality check we need. Truth matters. It matters supremely. We live in an age that says it doesn't matter, and yet look how much it does. Where there is no truth, there can be no justice. That's the teaching of Isaiah 59. When truth stumbles in the public squares, righteousness is lost because you don't have the truth about what is right and wrong. And when there's no righteousness, there's no justice because you cannot have that which is right being enforced and therefore justice comes. And when that which is wrong is enforced, when lies have the ascendancy, when falsehood is enshrined in legislation even to this degree, what do you get? Injustice. You get the youngest and most vulnerable among us led down these evil pathways and their lives are being destroyed. And many of them will end up being refugees from this crazy phenomenon. They'll be ostracised from the movement. There's a guy in Perth I talked to recently who detransitioned and realised what nonsense it was and how he'd been led down the garden path and had really done great harm to himself. But they dropped him like that as soon as he said to them that he didn't believe in it anymore. And now he's looking for a home, and he's found a home in the church. And I fear, well, maybe fear might not be the right word, but I believe that the church will have to step up and pick up the pieces of young lives that have been gravely harmed by this. Truth matters. Even the simple truth of a historical event like a birth and whether that baby is a boy or a girl. Look where a society goes when we trample it underfoot and we no longer value what ultimately is God's and what ultimately defines God, which is that He is the truth, the author of truth, and the one who set all truth in place for our good.